So let's talk about what a healthy team environment is all about. I think this whole conversation with Mark Boucher about Mark Boucher and team culture and SJN hearings, and we had quite a good show yesterday explaining everybody's point of view on the matter. We read a lot of live chat as well, and you got your guys' opinion on what you guys thought about it. So it got me thinking, because particularly listening to re-listening to Paul Adams's testimony 2 nights ago at the SJN, um, when we were speaking about his release and what he had to say in his release, it made me start to think about again team cultures, team environments, particularly in South African cricket, where I think it should be it's a little bit different to other countries and other places. I think we have a very unique situation over here. So I thought it would be interesting to have a topic about this, have a quick discussion about this today on today's daily show. But first and foremost, what I need you guys to do, that button's red in the bottom right hand corner. Please click it. Click on that subscribe button and that notification bell for all future videos. Also, smash that like button and do so. Tell everybody that you know to smash it too. When you see people in the live chat and you see a certain amount of people watching the video and it's not equating to the amount of likes on the video, please let the guys know in the live chat. Also, smack the become a patron button too, and the link that's on the screen as well as in the description. This is how you help us obviously grow as a company. You can get involved as a family. We can then do a lot more things that we are willing to do going forward, and we can be able to obviously do it much quicker if you guys get involved with the Patreon account. Then also download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics Magazine monthly. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every single month. The link is on the screen as well as in the description. So let's get into today's discussion. I'm excited to have a conversation with you guys about this. Let's see where it goes. A very good evening and welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine. This is your daily show. I'm your host, Khalid Mohidan, and this is the show where we talk about all the major talking points in South African cricket. Now, as we know, there hasn't necessarily been much to go around with regards to reports, etc. There's been some good articles and follow-ups after the Boucher after Boucher was obviously found not guilty not found not guilty, but the allegations were dropped against him of racism. And there were quite a few pieces that I think some people maybe need to go read. There was one particular one that I really enjoyed by Telford Weiss. You guys will know him. Of course, he's been on the channel a couple of times too. We've had discussions with him as well. A very, very good piece that I think that majority of you guys should go read. It's all about Mark Boucher's situation and particularly about the Adams situation as well. So I mean, there are certain aspects in the piece that he speaks about, saying that specifically about how he was kind of left out in a way to dry by others that should have also stood up and testified along with Paul Adams. It is almost like he was kind of left on his own to fight this battle on his own. There's a lot of truths that it was said in this, and some are opinions. But I think strong points were made in this particular article. So I think you guys should go and read it. You'll find it on ClickBuzz. Please go ahead and do so. I think there's a lot of things in there that we can maybe discuss on a future show. So I suggest maybe you go and read that and then come back to me on what you guys think about it. But let's start this topic. I've got Aditya with me with this one. We're going to discuss particularly team environments. Now, like I said in the intro, reading Paul Adams's testimony and seeing what he had to say in the issue, and again a second time, made me start to think about culture, environments, team environments, etc. Not only from a cricket perspective, but also from a cultural perspective, from a family perspective. Is there certain teams prefer to have like a family vibe within the dressing room? Others want it purely to be work and competitive, and then you get people that are in the middle. And what we can probably understand or accept as human beings is that there'll always be cliques within dressing rooms, and that is probably more likely than having a complete dressing room that gets along well all the time. I mean, we even here on Cricket Fanatics Magazine, some of us will have a little bit of a break from each other, or we'll we'll have a little bit of not, I wouldn't say arguments, but disagreements here and there on certain topics. So us as a family too, what is the ultimate team culture that you want to have? So it got me thinking, as- and specifically, what I want to speak about is for South Africa and why is it different for South Africa. So what we need to realize that in South African teams, whether you are at school, any level that you play, whether you're at school level, whether you're at club level, or whether you're at domestic or international, it's less so in international because obviously once you've made the international team, you've made it and you're earning a decent salary. But you'll see it in domestic, school, and university, and even and some points club cricket as well, the differences in the socioeconomic stature of certain players compared to others, and what sort of problems certain players go through than others, and the hardships that some may go through. I mean, one of our writers is writing a story about a former South African cricketer from back in the day, speaking about the hardships that he had to face playing in difficult conditions, having to go back to a shack, traveling and going to Joburg for a game and staying in the Sandton Sun, and then having to go back to his little town, um, his little house, or little tin house, you could say, even in Soweto again. Like, it's crazy. You're playing with all these guys that are going home to decent homes, and I've mentioned it before on this channel as well. I've mentioned certain stories of there are certain players that making it for them is getting their first paycheck. It's a massive achievement for them. And you compare that to maybe someone that is of a different wealth level, and they are going home to good, nice apartments where the other this person's check is basically getting spent on his family, looking after his parents or his mother or his grandmother or his brothers and sisters, putting food on their table, putting food on his own table. They might not be able to go to, like, to live in a nice area like Sea Point or Greenpoint or Rondebosch or even Kenilworth if you're talking about Cape Town. And if you're looking at Johannesburg as well, I mean, the likes of them staying in Stanton and staying in all of those nicer areas. I think it's Norwood. I think one of them is also a very nice area. It's tough. Like, you're not going to necessarily be able to do the same. So you might be paid the same and etc. But what you do with that money, what your circumstances are, would be different for someone else. So it's interesting to see that. And when it comes to team environment, Aditya, what I want to speak to you about, at what point is it also important for a team to have inclusivity within the dressing room so that players don't feel like they have to be embarrassed about them circumstances? Um, for me, an ideal team environment would be that there are certain things in place that the coach puts in place, that other players put in place, that administrators put in place, so that you can have a decent, that you can feel comfortable within the team environment and speak about your issues and go to those people when you're having problems and saying how you're struggling. Um, I doubt that maybe pops up in other countries as much as it would in South Africa, because I feel like the differences within the class within one particular domestic team alone is crazy. In India, I'm sure that there must be certain issues with regards to that too, where certain players are coming from poorer backgrounds and having to play with majority of people that are coming from a wealthier background. Because cricket, generally speaking, it is a wealthy man's sport. It's always been a class of sport when it comes to the West. When it comes to England, when it comes to those countries, it's always come across like that from that perspective, the tradition and all of that some things. But when you look into India and you look into Sri Lanka and Bangladesh and Pakistan, it's not so much so. So they are doing something right that maybe South Africa can emulate, to make these players feel inclusive, even if they aren't maybe on in the same from the same social economic background, or from the same level financially.
Well, it's such a complicated topic. First off, it's very hard to find a solution to it, because it's always going to be, as Temba Bavuma said in one of his press conferences, that any conversation about culture has to take into account that it's an ongoing process. But since you're talking about the West as well, and if you look at like Australian players who've come through the ranks, guys like David Warner, for example, or Michael Clark, they didn't come from privileged backgrounds. They came from relatively poor backgrounds, and they made it big. Um, I don't know if that's the case. It's just that in those countries, the baseline standard of living tends to be significantly higher than the standard of living uh, in certain communities in South Africa or India, Bangladesh, etc. Uh, the one thing that I feel can be similar, I suppose. Although, look, I don't know. It's such a hard. It's hard to explain. In India, for example, if every dressing room that a youngster has probably gotten into,
Mhm.
there's always been a player that they idolized. So for example, if a young player is going into a dressing room that has Sachin Tendulkar and Rahul Dravid, these are people that the player actually idolized growing up. There are people like players have Sachin's face with like six elephant heads. They pray to him literally.
Right.
There are mothers that fast for him and all of that. So in such a circumstance, the it's Sachin's responsibility to ensure that this player feels comfortable. And no players ever said that I felt uncomfortable in Sachin Tendulkar's presence. Initially they've always been overawed, and then
Mm.
he finds a way to make them comfortable. And it's
Mm.
the same with MS Dhoni, Rahul Dravid, Anil Kumble. So the first thing I'd say is that it's important to have good role models.
Yeah.
And
I mean, Aditya, I thought South Africa were on a good path towards that cultural inclusivity and that, like Lorenzo says over here, with regards to the Protea Fire movement that happened. From that movement, from the transition from AB to Villiers to Faf to Plessis specifically, I thought that that dressing room was very much as one. It felt very inclusive to be around the team. Even when you're at the net sessions, like I'm standing around listening to them talk and interact, it seemed very inclusive to me. And but yet there seemed not to be the same type of vibe as things went on. Now I'm talking about now to see more currently. I don't think we would have had a situation where people were not kneeling, some deciding. I don't think that would have happened under Faf's captaincy. Maybe if he was in the dressing room or whatever the case, maybe I don't know if it would have been different then, because it's not, because he's the type of guy, I feel he's a very humble man that doesn't want to get in the way of someone that is in charge. Like he completely stepped away from the captaincy when he dropped the captaincy and gave it over. So I thought that we were going towards something positive again, but the SJN kind of opened up old wounds, and there were certain things that Paul Adams spoke about that basically highlighted the issues within our community. Now, I'm sure if I speak to players of color in South African cricket, that we'll hear a lot of stories of them feeling uneasy or not feeling part of something, especially newer guys maybe coming in. I'm not saying for every single franchise or semi-pro side or whatever the case may be, or school cricket, but at some point in their career as a cricketer, I'm sure they would have felt some sort of discomfort because of it. And I think that inclusivity is very important. Especially when it comes to, like, for example, as well, in South Africa, the different types of religions that we have here, it is mind blowing. Like the different types of cultures and religions we have here. Literally almost every single religion you can think of we have in South Africa, and even some that are not in other countries are here too. So it's a lot of different people, different races, different cultures, different backgrounds. We know that certain races, it just so happens to be, because of numbers, that certain races have certain cultures too. Like there are certain, like for example, I don't know the population numbers in India, but majority of people in India would look like you and me, like, generally speaking here. So for a kid to grow up idolizing someone that looks like him is a lot easier. You're not going to see someone maybe from India in Delhi looking up to Michael Jordan and saying, I'm going to be an NBA star, maybe. Like very seldomly, you'll probably see that because height comes in it. Certain type of physicality comes in it. You have to be able to have watched basketball, which is part of a certain culture as well. Um, there's a certain culture around NBA, and there's certain like culture around cricket. There's a certain culture around football, etc., etc. So you look up to people that you can emulate, and that you could see as, oh, that's my hero. I want to be that one day. So there's not a lot of examples in South Africa when it comes to that. But that's irrelevant to me right now for this particular case and this topic. What do you think a team should do, especially in South African cricket, to open up that exclusivity and allow people to feel a lot more comfortable within an environment? Do you suggest that there should maybe be regular meetings to speak about issues and openly with the coaches, and maybe one of the board members, if maybe you want to take it that far, where people can constantly have those conversations? Or do you just think it's as simple as having a couple of cultural camps or suppers to get the team to bond as a family and understand? Maybe, what I would do as a coach is I would probably say, the Muslim guys, for 1 week, you are taking care of food, and then the next week the Christian guys will take care of food. But you have to mind, you have to make sure that that the Muslims have to eat from halal meat, etc. And it helps you open up and understand, try different things, new things, and how to live with each other and not force each other to do certain things. You know, it's like I'm gonna have obviously a cultural waiting when we start hanging out, when I see you again, because you're gonna teach me about your religion as well and the way you do things, and I will show you certain things maybe that you already know probably, but we're obviously gonna experience different things from each other. So, what sort of thing would you probably put in place to allow that inclusivity within a dressing room or in a team environment?
Well, for one, it's important to know the person beyond the player, right? So I think that's the responsibility of the senior players in the team, and it's important to have good man management skills there. And honestly, at a certain stage, it feels like people can talk about these issues for a long time. But the one thing that teams need to realize, certainly South African teams, is that they can be united by cricket. That there is a certain goal to achieve there. Cricket can be used as that one avenue to be able to overcome those differences, because those differences are there no matter what. you know Use the sport to heal those wounds. The common purpose is winning a game or winning a series or winning a world cup. That's the common purpose. And again, it's an iterative process, it's an ongoing process uh, to learn more about culture and so on. A very touching example for me was when Rashid Khan was part of the Sunrisers Hyderabad. David Warner, Kane Williamson, Mohammad Nabi, they were all a part of that team. And Kane Williamson and David Warner used to fast with Rashid Khan, during Ramadan. I thought that's really touching, because you know they don't, because they're still learning about Rashid Khan's culture. They made that effort to do it. And and they're from Australia and New Zealand, and they're fasting in temperatures of over 40 degrees centigrade, and they're playing cricket at the same time. It's not easy. So I felt like that was an amazing way of doing that. Is that going to somehow make them experts of Khan
No,
culture?
of course not.
No, of course not.
Mm.
It's not. But it's one way of bonding,
Yeah.
right? Can we expect a white South African player to completely relate to a black South African player and
No.
his life experience? No, of course not. And similarly, can a black South African player relate to a white South African player completely? No, that's not going to happen. But somewhere they can find that respect for each other, enjoy each other's company, and play cricket, because that's what they're there for. So the entire culture camp can take place from time to time. but
Mhm.
they have to. I think they can make better use of what they're there for, which is to play cricket. Use that to
Yeah.
unite the team.
Yeah. It's more for me like being aware of it. You know, I think I don't think people of color would be so upset if people of white people were more aware of it actually taking place instead of saying there's no such thing as racism, there's no racism happening, it's just all in your head. I think accepting the fact that it's there is the first step to us become to living in harmony. To see certain things, I think maybe some people we just turn our head, we don't necessarily look at other people's struggles. We focus on our own lives a lot of the times, and we don't necessarily we're not necessarily on high alert or we have push notifications on for everybody else's struggles. You kind of have your own struggles that you're dealing with. So when it comes when it comes to a team culture and environment, because in cricket, I think it's more important than any other sport because of the amount of time you spend together, not only on the field but off the field too. Especially when you're playing test matches, you're away from home for months. At some cases for series, and it's important that people don't feel alienated on these tours. You don't want a situation where you hear like Mackay and Teely speaking about things like that. I don't want to hear a story like that ever again in South African cricket, where someone is speaking about how they felt left out because of purely just because of their culture and the way things were, you know. And yes, sport is sport, and we are boys, and generally speaking, when you're playing sport, there are going to be certain cliques, etc., and certain favoritism and certain things happening within team environments. That's you have to kind of accept that. If you're in a team sport, majority of the time the people that you are going to be with are also people that you've probably played your whole life with sometimes, and you build those friendships, etc. But I feel that at least in certain aspects, like you can have those friend groups. Like there's no issue with that, of course. I'm not expecting those people to invite them over on the weekends when there's no cricket happening. But at least within the team environment, when the team is together, try to be inclusive as possible. Try to include everybody in certain aspects and ask their advice too. You know, it's also nice for them to be able to feel included with the decisions that the team is made, not just that they are pawn on this chessboard. Let them help them be one of the bishops that can help make the decisions on where we're going to trap someone or where we're going to, where we're going to go forward and move forward. Let them help them be part of the decision making too, and include them in ways like that. Um, and I feel yes, cricket will bring them together. Playing in the middle, obviously, those and going towards a common goal, it does help. Um, but if you hear certain, like for example, Paul Adams managed to brush it off, for example, and just focus on his common goal, which was obviously playing cricket and winning games for the team. And maybe it didn't register with him immediately, you know. But some it will. There will be some that feel a little bit left out. And we must be careful the way why coaches need to also be very mindful of this. And I think that coaches need to be more involved within what is taking place, and the captain, of course, yes, the captain. But I think coaches need to be more involved within what is happening in their dressing room from a culture perspective, not just let the team be and find their feet by themselves. I feel that there needs to be inclusivity amongst the staff, amongst the players. Get to know these people, that no one feels isolated or left out from the moment a new person comes into the team. And from the stories I've listened to and heard about Faf du Plessis' leadership, that's exactly how it was. When youngsters came into the team, he made them feel comfortable. He would go over and talk to them, introduce the player to everybody. You know, what they've built and grown there within the team environment is amazing. And I feel that Dean Alga is starting to find something like that, because I was very impressed with the way Dean Alga pushed this team through the whole kneeling the situation, deciding on that, moving through this, winning games with the whole thing around Boucher hanging over Boucher's head. I feel that Dean Alga needs to be the man that stands up and says, you know what, guys, maybe I think we need to be we can improve in this manner. Let's lead that. And we wanted to see it from the captain, but you want to see it from Mark Boucher. If your coach is coming through and he's making efforts to create cultures and have lunches together and get to know each other better and understand people's different cultures. You never know, you know. I mean, who wouldn't want to see? Never mind. Let's move on from that. Aditya, what's your thoughts on that? Do you feel the coaches need to get involved with that, or do you think it's only on the players' responsibility or captain's responsibility?
No, definitely. I think the entire support staff has to be responsible there, and not even that. It's got to filter down. Right from the top, from the board, down to the support staff and the management and coach, captain, and senior players and so on. Uh, you're referring to Telford's article, I believe, earlier in the show.
Yeah, I spoke about Talford's article about Paul Adams and the HJN situation. We spoke
Right.
about Boucher. Yeah.
So he pointed out discrepancies between Paul Adams' original submission versus what the SJN said. In the way in which Mark Boucher was highlighted there. That's something you don't want happening. If that report cannot be trusted, then what's the point of the whole process,
Mm.
right? So there's got to be some sort of accountability right from the top, and there definitely needs to be a lot of education going down from the coaches to the management of the senior players, because it's their responsibility to bring the best out of players, and the only way that they're going to bring the best out of players is if players are comfortable. And given South Africa's situation, with respect to diversity and the individual backgrounds of players, that's something that they have to be cognizant of. Now, I understand that it feels like it feels like more workload for them, but I think that comes with the job, given that the country that you're in, an Indian coach would have different responsibilities to a South African, you know, because in India the nature of the environment, the ecosystem in cricket here is different compared to South Africa. So I think every individual coach would have his or her his or her job cut out with respect to man management and how to make teams comfortable. But I totally agree. I think Bajaj needs to be leading that movement for the South African team. And
Now, Lorenzo says over here, healthy team environment starts at the top down. If there's harmony in the boardroom and the board, the team
exactly,
moving. So now I want to talk about that, because specifically about the director of cricket, which is a new role within South African cricket at the moment, I feel that is really been highlighted. With the director of footballs happening all around the world and the demands for that, there's a massive highlight on that position, directors of a certain sport. Now, for me, one of the criteria when it comes to a director of cricket is to be able to foresee, um, or to be able to have a plan on how things need to go forward from a team environment, from a cricketing perspective, and from a development, from a transitional perspective and future. I think that every director of cricket should be able to put together a PowerPoint presentation or plan to show what their 5-year plan or 2-year plan or 3-year plan is for the Proteas national team, for the domestic system, and how they're going to integrate everything into one, to have a full flowing system that goes right from the bottom through. That is the director of cricket's job. It's not only to worry about the national team, which is kind of what happened with Graham Smith at the moment. His focus has been majority on the national teams. Um, I mean, national team, I would say, men's national team. Majority of it has been focused on there. Yes, he has shown his support for the women's teams as well as for the under 19 teams, etc. But not as much as we'd hoped. You know, I would like my director of cricket to at least put in enough scouts in place to be able to be his eyes and ears if he can't be the one that's doing it himself, going out there and looking at different players and what the quality of cricket is. And actually, I would like that to happen. The director of cricket needs to be able to go out there and witness what our standard of cricket is, compare it to other parts of the world, see how we can improve. And that's the job of a director of cricket. So I think that with every role, there needs to be some sort, the person needs to come with some sort of plan on how they're going to improve the current situation, the current team culture, the current. There's always room for improvement. I don't think there's ever been a perfect team environment ever. There's always going to be people that need to leave. Sometimes you need to select players that would be good for the team environment and culture, and maybe um, they, when it comes to performance alone, they might be a great performer, but they might not be right for the team environment and culture. A certain player might be, personality might not suit the team environment and culture, or they might be a certain way arrogant, or a certain way that throws everything off. That also should be looked at, the person's personality as well. You can't overlook certain things too, like that. I mean, I'm sure there's been cases where players have been selected, also because of that aspect, because of what they bring to the side from a attitude perspective too.
I mean, Kevin Peterson was dropped for exactly that reason, right? His career ended because of it, and personally, I didn't agree with that because I think it's the responsibility of the coach and management to be able to manage players differently. Sure, you have 11 players in a team, but each of them is a different individual, and there are different things that motivate them, get the best out of them, and so on. So sometimes you have these mavericks, and a lot of a lot of boards and teams are not able to handle them effectively when it's their job to be able to do that, because I think the expectation is, and perhaps it's human nature, is that you have this maverick, you want him to win you games, but off the field you expect him to be a choir boy. That's not going to happen. Sure, Kevin Peterson, he could be an irritant. He could challenge you at times. That can be annoying. It could be a training experience, but he wins you games. He single-handedly wins you games, and you have to find a way to manage players like that. If he's out of line, you nail it straight away. But you have to find a way to manage these players,
Yeah.
and I don't know if there are enough boards around the world that do that particularly well.
Yeah, so I think a nice episode would be us talking about what the roles of the DOC is, what we think a good structure in cricket would look like. I think let's do that next, maybe. I think what the Lions are building currently in their system is really good, and I hope that South Africa can start building that. And I will speak about what I think each role means and what is needed for each role, and maybe we can discuss this on a later show. But guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. I mean, we're gonna get load shedding soon, so I need to charge everything so that I'm not stuck. It's an awkward time, 8 till 10. So like, I need to have some of the things. I can't be sleeping that early. Not with the amount of work I have to do. So please subscribe to this channel. Click that notification bell for all future videos as well. Smash the like button and do all of those things. But what I would like you to do is also download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics Magazine monthly. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every single month. The link is on the screen as well as in the description. Then I would like you to also become a patron today. The link is on the screen as well as in the description. Please become a patron, guys. It really helps us go forward as a company. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot, Aditya, for coming on the show. We'll see you guys again tomorrow with another daily show. We're hoping to still bring you some decent content, even in the quiet times over here. So please support us and continuously share our content, guys. And if you guys want to clip it up, put it on TikTok, or wherever the case may be, go ahead and do so. It would be interesting to see. Or even if you want to just send it to us to post on our TikTok account, we'll do so too. I don't know how this whole TikTok thing works, so I need as much help as possible to be able to do those things. But guys, thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you guys very, very soon. Take care. Peace.